Welcome back to Conservative Conversations. I am Reid.
And I'm Frank.
Today we're going to be talking about Signalgate and potential changes to the SNAP benefits program. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you'd like to hear an extra segment, you can become a paid subscriber through our podcast host Red Circle. Alright, so to get started, we're going to talk about the biggest story of last week, which was the whole Signalgate. Is that what they're calling it? Everything's a gate now.
Yep, that's what they're calling it, Signalgate.
Which I kind of feel like it's already turned into basically a nothing burger at this point, but I suppose we each got some few comments about it.
Well, I thought I'd start by just sort of laying it out.
Sure, go for it.
For anybody who missed the news,
right,
maybe.
Yes.
So between March 11th and March 15th of 2025, a group of senior Trump administration officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and National Security Advisor Mike Walls, engaged in a group chat on the Signal messaging app. This chat, intended for high-level national security discussions regarding military operations against the Houthi rebels in Yemen, inadvertently included Jeffrey Goldberg, who happens to be editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. This incident, which is now being dubbed Signalgate, as we just said, has raised what some believe to be serious concerns.
Mm-hmm.
President Trump has dismissed the calls for Waltz's resignation and has labeled the controversy a witch hunt, but there are a lot of people within the government, the various entities of the government,
right,
who have some issues and some concerns about this, like lawmakers, including Representative Jason Crow, who think that, this mishandling, what they view as mishandling of sensitive information could endanger military personnel and compromise operational security. The Pentagon has come out and they issued a memo warning that people should not use Signal for official communication. They've cited vulnerabilities within the platform that could be exploited by foreign hackers. There's been some international reaction, especially from Israel, who is one of our key intelligence partners. They've come out and lodged formal complaints about the leak, saying that shared intelligence was exposed, which could potentially affect future cooperation from them. Then there's also been some people like Mark Warner have been calling for the resignation of certain officials, including Hegseth and Walls.
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously there's what the people think too. And I think there's a lot of people out there who, are just looking for any excuse, any misstep from Trump and his cabinet to jump on, and start ringing alarm bells and preparing impeachment papers and all of that kind of thing. So there's, if you ask me, you said right at the beginning that this has turned into a sort of nothing burger, and I think it's kind of a nothing burger too. Because I think between one of us, we're going to get to, I don't want to hit the words just yet because I want to see if we can find them together. But I think some of this is sort of rich.
Right.
I'll try to lead into it. What do you think about the whole thing?
I feel like my main concerns is really only two, personally. Is one, is how did Jeff Goldberg end up on this messaging thread in the first place? Particularly knowing he's fairly anti-Trump. He's the source of the suckers and losers.
Yeah, I know.
Right. So, I mean, I think that's kind of concerning is how did he even end up with this list? And two, they said there wasn't classified info, which technically there very well may not have been. But when Jeff Goldberg releases the messages that say the time that bombs are going to be dropped prior to that time.
Yeah, about a half an hour before,
right,
as I understand it.
Seems pretty sensitive to me, but ultimately, I don't feel like too much negative has come from those actions other than some kind of big scandal.
Well, I'll just point out, I don't mean to interject into what you're going to say or anything like that. And I don't know. I haven't read the messages. I haven't seen the texts myself or anything.
Right.
But I think this is probably going to fall into one of those technical categories because there's so many different classifications for information. I mean, they have levels and levels and levels and levels of classification. So when they say none of it was classified, that might just be technical.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was
like you say, sensitive. I know. I'm just trying to pick up on that and sort of highlight it. Like maybe it was sensitive information, but not technically, confidential or, So I don't know. I'm sure on some level that they're playing straight with the American people. Maybe it didn't have that technical classification, but yeah, it does seem like sensitive information.
Yeah.
It does seem like a faux pas, a mistake.
Right.
Somebody
Certainly.
made a mistake.
Right. But other than that and the fact that how on earth the mystery of Jeff Goldberg being on this text thread happened is, I guess, something to be figured out. And also another thing I didn't really like is that Waltz, Mike, he came out and he said, like, Elon Musk and his teams are going to get on the case to figure out how Jeff Goldberg got on the text thread. Like, it's some big, I don't know.
Well, and I heard another
thing. I don't know.
He probably will. I bet you Trump wants to look strong right now, but I bet Mike Walls probably will be replaced. I just bet you now. If I were a betting man, I got 50 cents saying he's probably going to be replaced. Just going to probably be a month from now or something like that.
Yeah.
But I saw him give another weak answer where he's like, well, sometimes you just port in numbers from your phone and you have a contact with a number and it's
right.
And it's like, what? I mean, I think it was on the Ingram angle and she was even pressing him. And I'm sorry. I mean, I've got respect for her. I've talked about her before.
Right.
I've got respect for her, but I don't think she's the brightest bulb in the tanning bed. Right. I don't think she's, like Einstein's daughter or anything like that. Right. But even she was sitting there and saying, well, how does that make any sense? I've never had anything like that happen. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. Yeah. And if he does get fired or even resign, I feel like that's more than right. Yeah, that first, but I feel like that's more than what the Biden administration can claim. Because how many scandals did they have where we just kept passing the buck around and nobody took responsibility?
Now we're getting there. See, that's why I find this to just totally be rich. Now, part of it, I'm with you. I think some of this common sense to the average person, this seems like a mistake. Now, here's the coolest thing that I've heard the Trump people say is, well, this was a success, not a fiasco.
Right.
We were successful in this mission.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's kind of what I think about when I said, nothing negative came from it. It's not like the Houthis found out themselves and like we botched the whole operation, or our own soldiers were harmed because of this incident.
Bingo.
Yeah.
That's why I find it so rich coming from those people. I mean, you've got Hillary Clinton with the private server sending God knows how many emails to God knows who, and only God knows. I mean that.
Right.
I mean that. And that doesn't matter. It gets swept under the rug. She can get people killed in Benghazi.
Yep.
And she can sit there before the Congress and say, what does it matter? What's it matter now? It's over. It happened. What's it matter? Nothing happens to her.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And then the pullout with Biden in Afghanistan, another 13 people dead.
Right.
Nothing happens. And then here somebody inadvertently gets added into a chat that they shouldn't be in, and it's the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, the thing that does sort of hurt my heart about it is it is a blemish. It was a mistake.
Yeah.
And this is something that we know is when you're on the right side, you have to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, it's like I said, you have these Trump haters out there who just hate Trump, but you also have people who just, it's like that quote from Batman. Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't give them that chance. You can't give them the chance to say, see,
right.
You suck, you mess up, you're just like Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
See, you have to be better than. And so I just hope that this serves as a caveat. This is an administration, we're in month 3 or something like that. I mean, about to be 4.
We basically just finished the second month.
Okay, so about to be 3, something like that. We're in like month 3. And this is like the biggest mistake that's happened so far.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it pales in comparison to Biden and
Right.
previous administrations. Obama,
Mm-hmm.
because he was in the Oval Office when Hillary was Secretary of State. So, I mean, this just pales in comparison to what the Democrats have done.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's preposterous that there would be
Right.
this outcry. I do think something happens. I don't think Walsh should be fired. I think he probably will be.
Mm-hmm.
But I just hope that this shows as an example, serves as an example to everybody in this administration going forward.
Mm-hmm.
That we need to mind our P's and Q's.
Yep, exactly.
We need to mind what we say. We need to mind who we talk to. We need to mind what apps we're talking to each other on.
Right. Gotta be on your best.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. Because they immediately seized on it. The media and the Democrats did. It was like the biggest scandal for all of last week. So it's
well, and I would just say, as a word to the wise, if I could put a word in the president's ear, which I'm nobody, but maybe he's a fan of ours. Who knows? Maybe I would just say this: the people have had your back so far, and I think it'll keep up.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to lose them over this.
Right.
But you keep slipping, and so will your polls, so will your support, so will the support that people have for the Republicans at large. There you go, your majorities. There you go, your votes. So be careful. Be careful, especially if you want to keep, opining about a third term.
Oh, it's funny you say that.
Well, it's just a little word of caution, know. I think it's mostly a joke about the third term.
Yeah. Well, I said that because a relative of mine, kind of out of the blue today, asked me what I thought about it, and I said, "Well, it's mostly bluster. The Constitution would have to be amended again, and I just don't think most people will go for it.
Right.
And also, I'm sure it's easy to think about being able to get a third term when you're relatively popular, but 2028 is still quite a ways away."
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I had on that third term stuff.
Yeah.
But is that all you got for the Signalgate?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's all I've got. I mean, the only other thing that I wanted to add, okay, I'm glad you asked me.
Sure.
I did want to add one, is they've already answered. The Congress has already called, at least, I don't remember if it was 4 or 5, but they already called a panel of 4 or 5 of these people up to Congress to testify on this.
Right.
And one of them was our beautiful Director of National Intelligence,
Right.
Tulsi Gabbard. And I love any opportunity to see her. I love that they came immediately. They don't need subpoenas. They're not playing any games. They go, they sit, they answer, they testify. I think they're doing a good job. I haven't lost any faith in these people.
Yep, not yet.
No.
They haven't.
Not even Mike Walls. Okay,
Right.
I can understand. I don't know how this mistake happened.
Right. Yep.
But it's he put in, however it happened, another American person. Now, not the best American person, but it's not like some, random dictator from a third world country got put into the chat or something like that.
Right, of course.
And I would just again harken back to what I always say, but who knows who Hillary was sending emails to?
Mm-hmm.
So give me a break. At least it's all out in the daylight.
Right. Exactly.
So that's it. That's all I would say on the Signalgate.
Yeah. That's pretty much all I would have too. I mean, it's unfortunate it happened. Hopefully they can, prevent these kind of easy mistakes in the future. And we'll see what happens. I think it's, as the news cycle usually is, it doesn't take long before we're on to the next thing. Which, our next thing is the other story from last week, which was the whole SNAP benefits. There's been talk about cutting junk food and sodas and sugary drinks out of SNAP benefits, or colloquially known as food stamps. And there's kind of been two controversies over it. One, the whole proposal of even doing it, and two, that there have been conservative people who have been allegedly paid to promote sugary drinks and SNAP benefits, being able to pay for them. But I'm on the side of that we definitely should get rid of it. I mean, I don't see why, as taxpayers, we need to hand over money for people to go buy these unhealthy products that then they turn around and need to go to the doctors and get their diabetes medicines for, and we have to subsidize that too. It's this whole vicious cycle of it. And also, it's nothing new. The WIC program, Women's, Infants, and Children.
There you go.
They already restrict what you can buy with their, food funds. Whatever.
Well, you're beating me to a huge crux of my argument. I was going to say about the SNAP benefit, but go ahead.
Well, I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, it's some people try to make the argument that it's preventing personal choice. Well, okay, it's a choice that you're making with money that's given to you as a privilege, not a right. And you can certainly go buy whatever sugary drinks you want with your own money that you come across.
Let me tell you, I'm going to tell you something controversial, but it's not. It's not in my opinion, okay? Hopefully there's a lot of people out there that agree with me. But the same people who tell you that you can't stop somebody on SNAP EBT from buying Coca-Cola with their benefits is the same person who tells you that you can't stop a 12-year-old minor from gender-affirming care. These are people who don't think in the real world.
Right.
And so anyway, I've overplayed my hand. I definitely agree. I don't think that people on SNAP EBT should be getting soda, whatever.
Right.
And it's not a personal choice. I mean, if you want to be unhealthy, be unhealthy. I don't care about that.
But you shouldn't be unhealthy at the taxpayer's dime.
Well, here's my point, okay? WIC. WIC
right?
is the model.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, perfect model. Do you know why it's beautiful and perfect?
Let's hear it.
It pays for itself. It's a fully funded program. Look it up.
I heard that. I had not heard that.
It's a perfect program. It's fully funded. Totally pays for itself. It's a great program.
Yeah.
But they're also very specific.
Yep.
You can only get this kind of peanut butter. You can only get this kind of milk. You can only get these kinds of vegetables.
Right.
You can only get these kinds of fruits.
Right.
You can only get this kind of egg. Whatever. They're very specific. You go outside the program, and they won't pay for it.
Right.
You want to buy Skippy peanut butter? You got to buy Skippy peanut butter.
Right.
They will only buy Jif. I don't know why. But that's the deal. At least it was back when I was a cashier for Walmart. You could only get Jif. You could only get certain brands of everything, certain types of everything. But the reason the program works and is so beneficial is because they guarantee that they can provide those items for people on the service.
Right.
Do you see? It's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
You want to buy lobster tails with wick? You can't.
No.
You can't do that.
Nope.
So it's great. I mean, if you need something, if you're trying to raise a child or an infant, what do you really need? You need protein. You need, and they've got it nailed down.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you see people reacting to this SNAP restructure idea. Because, yeah, of course there are things, and we're not talking about eliminating people's SNAP EBT benefits.
Right.
No, we're trying to talk about making the program more solvent, for its longevity, to keep it alive, keep it going.
Right.
And they've run stories. You can look it up. Just Google. I don't have it right here, but I promise you this. Just Google SNAP benefits lobster tail. Something like that.
Oh, yeah.
There was a story.
This guy in California.
That's right. Hippie
On
type
the
guy on the beach in SoCal.
Right. And people, essentially sell their benefits.
Well, and that used to happen a lot a long time ago, especially back when they had the old paper,
Right. I'm sure
fake,
it's certainly less
fake dollars.
now.
Oh, they still do it.
Right, because, you can walk into the store and say, hey, I got my EBT card. I can buy you this if you give me a little bit of cash.
I've literally had it happen to me before. Back when I lived in Parkersburg, West Virginia. You remember that? I've told you that story, where that guy was like, hey, what do you think about this steak? And I'm like, it looks like a good steak. And he's like, how would you like to have it half off? And I'm like, who wouldn't? That sounds amazing. And he's like, well, what if I bought you this steak? I've got this special card. That's what he kept telling me. He's like, I got this special card, and you could just give me, $25 for a $50 steak.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, I know what you're doing, buddy. But
Right.
yeah, there was that story about how some of these people will just, they get their benefit. It might not even be that much. I don't know. Some people might only get $50.
Sure.
Okay. But you go blow it on lobster tail, and I get both sides of the argument. Some people will say, well, that's their choice. If they want to blow their $50 benefit on lobster tail, where maybe they get 1.5 lobster tails for that $50, that's their prerogative. Well, I think it's shameful, especially from the liberal conception of how they're supposed to think or whatever.
Right.
If we're caring and providing for our brother, it should be closer to the WIC program. Let's get this guy some flour, some rice, some beans, some water,
Right.
a pot that he can cook in.
The name of the program.
Let's keep him alive for a month. Let's not buy him lobster dinner one night.
Right. It's the Supplemental Nutritional Access Program or Assistance Program. I forget what the A is. But the key word there is nutritional or nutrition.
Yes.
So I don't know how it's not an obvious and certainly above majority, issue.
Somebody from certain mindsets, especially when it comes to diets and blah, blah, blah. I get how some people could say, Coke's not going to kill you. If you want to have a Coca-Cola, it's not going to kill you. If somebody on the lower echelon of society wants to have a Coke, they shouldn't be shamed out of having a Coca-Cola.
Right. Yeah.
I do hear that side of the argument. I've got no problem with it.
Right.
But if you ask the fundamental question, what are we really trying to provide this guy when we give him, whatever the benefit?
Yeah.
I'll just say the benefit instead of giving a dollar amount. I'd like to give a dollar amount, but it's just hard. I don't know these benefits that well. But when we give him the benefit, is it to have a one-time high? Should he just buy 6 bags of Hershey Kisses? There ought to be some type of logical limit on where this money's spent.
Yeah, I would agree. And if things keep going the way they seem to be going, I wouldn't be surprised if we get those changes put in place. I mean, because some states themselves are already trying to do it on their level. And some states already do. I think Texas, I believe, is one of them.
Well, I know there probably are, because whatever state, what's her name? Who was the first press secretary under Trump? Do you remember the female?
Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Yeah, who's she, governor?
Arkansas.
Yeah,
her daddy.
remember we covered the story of how she's trying to put limits on Medicaid, where you have to work at least 20 hours or whatever. I can't remember what the minimum is, and I don't know if that even got passed. But I remember she was talking about it. She brought it up before the legislature, so I know that there are these moves being made, and I support them. I do support them.
Me too.
We're not saying cut the benefit.
Right.
We're just saying cut the crap.
Exactly. Cut the junk. The junk food. But, that was the other big story from last week, the whole SNAP benefits controversy. Let us know, folks, listeners, what you think about them. You can leave comments in the YouTube. You can send us an email. And I believe next, Frank's got another topic for us, real quick.
Well, there's been a lot of turmoil in the Democratic Party, and we've touched on that. We've been covering, a lot of people have. It just sort of seems like they're spiraling out of control. They don't have good leadership. You might even say, who's the leader, because some people are calling for the ouster of Chuck Schumer, who seems like the most powerful Democrat on the Hill.
Right.
So there's been some interesting developments on that front. This Jasmine Crockett's been in the headlines quite a bit again.
Oh, yeah.
For making controversial remarks about Greg Abbott, who's in a wheelchair, calling him Hot Wheels for all this over and over and over. And then trying to deny that she was poking fun at him, only for people to go back and do a deep dive on her tweets to see that she's been making fun of him for some time, actually. I don't know. I just think that's interesting, because another thing that's been discovered, or maybe has already been known, but it's being highlighted again, is, this Jasmine Crockett character has even flip-flopped on who she is and her personality. And do you know how she talks now? Some people call her Ratchet. Do you know that?
Yeah, I've heard other similar terms like.
Well, you've heard her talk. I mean, she kind of talks like a
ghetto's the other term. I've
hood
heard.
rat, like a ghetto. Yeah, like she's from the bad parts of the inner city. Well, apparently that's not true, and she's a very well-educated woman who is college educated, has a degree, went to a nice university, and apparently is very well spoken.
That doesn't surprise me, because I believe her colleague, AOC, is from like Westchester County, New York, which is kind of a, for lack of a better term, more of an uppity part of New York compared to the Bronx. So yeah, I see similarities there. But anyway, Jasmine Crockett.
Well, I mean, all I'm saying is I didn't realize that until this. Now, I'm sure it wouldn't have blown my mind to think that she's just a faker actress personality type, somebody who deals in personalities.
Yeah.
But for this to be highlighted and for, you see what I'm saying? It's like stuff comes out in waves sometimes. Like maybe some people already knew.
Right.
But now I know. And then, you know what I mean? If she keeps making headlines, people are going to find out about her.
Right, yeah.
And it's brought up some other stuff like, she's had big backing from crypto. Some people on her side of the aisle don't really care for that. That's kind of been brought up and brought under scrutiny. Some of the PACs that funded her campaign and stuff like that. And then also, just sort of the way she talks. It's like I was just saying, but that's even being brought on fire. Now, not the dichotomy between her college self and her modern self.
Right. How
she talked then and how she talks now, but just her discourse in general. Like the fact that she's even got tweets out there saying, F off to Elon Musk and calling Trump a draft dodger and other sort of disrespectful stuff,
right, yeah.
So a lot of her stuff's being brought under scrutiny.
Yeah, right.
And I'm just sort of, I don't know. I feel two ways about it because, we've been wondering who would step forward to fill the vacuum, the power vacuum. And I'd hate it to be her, but then look.
Yeah, she's
the more she steps forward. Star. Yeah, the more she steps forward, the more you realize she ain't. I don't think she's gonna be anybody's star. You get what I'm saying? I don't think she's the one.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I do see what you're saying. Yeah.
So I kind of like that.
Right. Yeah. I remember hearing about her Hot Wheels comment, which, in and of itself, I don't really care too much about.
I think it's hilarious. I call everybody in a wheelchair Hot Wheels.
He's the Governor Abbott, the wheelchair guy. I mean,
well, plus I think it's kind of playful. What's so wrong about saying Hot Wheels? Right. Come on.
I think the main difference is, she's not somebody calling him that out of playfulness. Yeah. Even though she tried to make it seem like it.
No, I get it.
But
she obviously meant to be disrespectful.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Whereas somebody like myself, I would certainly kind of poke fun at him. I mean, I'm blind, so why wouldn't I poke fun at the wheelchair guy, the guy in the wheelchair, Greg Abbott?
Yeah, no harm, no foul. That's how I see it. And plus, if you're coming from a good place.
Right, and I'm sure he's, at least to me, he seems like the kind of guy that would take a joke about
Plus,
it.
they say Hot Wheels leading the way.
Right.
And come on, we are leading the way. The Republican Party, Abbott. I mean, I'm proud of that guy.
Yeah, he's been governor for a while.
Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of what he's done for Texas. And the busing stuff was genius.
Yeah, right.
I think that guy's a genius. So if I called him Hot Wheels, I mean, I hope it wouldn't be taken the wrong way, but...
Right.
Yeah, you get somebody like her.
Right, yeah. It's the comment itself, in the face of, I don't find too harmful, but it's certainly clear that, at least to me, and certainly others, that she, like I said, she's not doing it out of playfulness. If she was, that'd be a whole different thing. But that's not the case.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really interesting, too, because, in the sense that we're talking about there's a power vacuum and who's going to fill it and all this stuff. And you brought up AOC, which I love. I'm glad you brought up AOC. She's been in the headlines a decent bit, a fair bit, I'd say. And one of the other things that happened over this last week that's really interesting to me, just because I love it, and it's something we've talked about before on the channel, but... Bernie Sanders was sitting for an interview, and it was one of these people. I can't name his name right now. I can see his face. He's one of the Jake Tapper types. He's a liberal news reporter guy.
Right.
And he's sitting and doing this interview with Bernie Sanders, and he asks him the question. He says, what would you think of AOC running for Senate or stepping into a Senate seat? And Bernie got upset and almost left the interview.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Now, he ended up being calmed down and brought back because it was a liberal outlet and a liberal newscaster who was asking him the question. And, he's immediately like apologized. He's like, Bernie, I'm not trying to hang on. Come back. Wait a minute. And he did. He calmed down. He came back.
Right.
But you can tell, the whole situation, like we've talked about before, is just sort of a quagmire.
Yeah.
Because when we called it playing with fire the last time we sat down to record. Because when they go calling for senators like Schumer for his seat to be filled,
right,
and then you're asking somebody like Bernie Sanders, should AOC try to step into the Senate? Well, what's he supposed to do? Name names and say, oh, yeah, she'd be great for Chuck Schumer's seat. Would that be a good thing for Bernie Sanders to say?
No, because he's got to go face Chuck Schumer in the Senate.
Absolutely.
And he's the majority or the minority leader of their party.
Yeah, but he's the leader of their party.
Right.
I would just say that. Yeah.
Right.
But yes, I know exactly what you mean. But it also, is he supposed to look to his left, to his right? Is he supposed to name somebody else? Maybe he doesn't look forward and name Schumer, but is he supposed to look left and say, oh, yeah, she'd be great to fill Nadler's seat?
Right.
Yeah, right. Is he supposed to sit there and name names?
Yeah, I can certainly understand Bernie's frustration there.
Is he supposed to name his own seat? Is he supposed to say, oh, yeah, I'm 83 or whatever. I'm 81.
I'll even sell her my house.
I'll let her have it. She can have my spot just as soon as I die. Or what? What's he supposed to say? It's like sort of a preposterous question.
Right.
But they're so desperate for leadership.
Yeah, it's quite I don't want to say amusing. In a way, it sometimes is amusing to watch what's going on with them, trying to figure out what to do.
I think it's amusing for these kinds of situations where they're so desperate that they're asking these inane questions that don't make sense. You don't even want the guy to answer it. If you're a party loyalist, you don't even want him to sit there and answer that question.
Right.
But do you see, they're so mixed up. Their party's so split. They've got these ultra green wing lefty super liberals, and then they've got some of these moderate types, and some people who would love to be super lefty liberals, but they've got a good head on their shoulders, and they are, somewhere out in left field, but they're not way out there in left field. And it's like nobody really knows what's going on, and the more you have people champing at the bit, the more they're exposed, like Jasmine Crockett. And you start to peel back the layers of her.
Right. Yeah, I think so. The more you put yourself out there, the more people are going to be curious.
I just think it's sort of beautiful. It's like we're going through a political cleansing.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think it's happening on the Republican side.
Sure.
Maybe in some small sense, because we're getting rid of those more rhino types or the more establishment types, the more war hawk types.
Right. Yeah.
But it seems to especially be happening on the left. They are really purging themselves over and over. I don't know what's going to come out of it.
Yeah. I don't either, but I'll be watching.
The cream always rises to the top, they say.
That's right.
I'm sure Gavin Newsom will come out in the 11th hour.
Right. All right, well, is that all you got on the Democrats and what's happening with them?
That is, there's really a lot going on with them.
Sure.
I'm sure we could talk a lot more about it, but I think we can leave it there.
All right. Well, then we will move into our bonus segment real quick, and if you would like to hear that, you can become a paid subscriber through our podcast host, Red Circle. Well, is that all you got?
That wraps up everything I wanted to say.
All right. Well, listeners, if you have enjoyed this great conservative conversation, these two dudes talking in their basement, we hope you follow us on your favorite podcast platform. You can find us on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and many other major podcast listening apps. You can also go subscribe to our YouTube channel, which brings me to a what do they call it? A programming note. That's it, a programming note. Some of you who listen may know we have another channel called The Wiki Wacky Radio Show. And some of you who might be keen observers have noticed we have been uploading that show to this channel, wherever you're listening to it. And that is because we are preparing to merge the channels into one place. And we're going to rename the channel to Contemporary Conservative to help streamline things a bit, because our website, contemporaryconservative.net, we got our email addresses that are at contempconserv, or contempconserv at gmail, and our social medias are at contempconserv. So we just want to simplify it a little bit, and the main channel will be called Contemporary Conservative, and we'll be uploading both of our shows there. And you'll know what show it is, because right in the beginning of the title, we'll have the show name followed by the episode name. So if you're not interested in one or the other of the shows, that's fine. You can just pick the show you want to listen to. And this will also make it easier for subscribing to Red Circle. Because currently, if you want to subscribe to bonus content for this show, Conservative Conversations, and the Wiki Wacky Radio Show, you had to pay for 2 separate subscriptions, but making one channel with both shows will allow us to just have people subscribe to one place, and they only need to pay 1 subscription.
Which is $1 a month, or $10
right.
a year.
Exactly. So you will probably continue to see some of these changes going forward, as we slowly work to combine the channels together. And there will be a point, we haven't quite decided yet, but it'll be a few weeks, a couple months or so, where the Wiki Wacky Radio Show is not uploaded to its own channel anymore and will be uploaded here. But if you regularly are listening to Conservative Conversations, that won't really affect you too much, other than you'll just continue to see a new show in the feed. And I suppose with that, just keep an eye out, subscribe on the podcast platforms, follow us on YouTube, and Frank's going to close it out.
That's right. We hope you might share us with a friend or two and encourage them to become paid subscribers so that they have access to all of the bonus and exclusive content that you have access to. And as always, we thank you so much for listening.